Welcome back to the witch hunt, Vi. It's good to see you with me again. Sometimes when my consciousness returns to me after I touch one of these stones, it feels like more time has passed than just a second or two. Today in particular, it feels more like a month has gone by since you and I have last talked, but that can't be the case. We're out here hunting that werewolf still. And I don't remember how many bullets I have put into it. Perhaps this is not the first time my consciousness has returned to me after touching that stone. Remember that I am brought back there should I fall, but my memory of the events that transpired earlier will be gone. The plan, at this moment, is to gain more mana, so that I can figure out where the werewolf currently is. I believe we have placed down, a single crucifix as well to help us. We will stay near the crucifix at this point, until I can get my bearings. We should look for one of those red spirits also, since that will fully restore my mana. And once it is full, we will see where this creature might be located. I think to start though, we will head up to the ridge, slightly past the crucifix. I don't remember if we've explored it fully, so we'll do so. And it sounds like we are not the only one who thought the ridge might be a good idea. Vi, you are telling me that the werewolf is here as well. And we're too far away from it at this point. No, it must have been in that direction. An absolutely mammoth oak. I thought for sure someone would leave offerings to it out here. Perhaps, however, we already took those. When last we had been talking, I believe I was trying to regale you with some history that I have doing this witch hunting business. At the very least, some of the experiences I had, which led me down this very path. I suppose we should continue that endeavor in this episode, shall we? First, however, a cannon. And I believe we have a cannonball. We do. We will come back for this, though. I have a feeling there is some great treasure beyond in that cave, but I would like to leave it there at this moment, for no other reason than to avoid the temptation of spending it. Remember that we have a ammo pouch, which is allowing us to hold 60 total silver bullets. We could use all the bullets we can find at this moment for sure. And our werewolf quarry is not in this direction. We need more mana. However, we will go this way anyway. It sounds like something is up on this ridge, and I don't hear any whisperers at this moment. Let's see if we can climb this ridge. Oh, that was very dangerous. Let's see if we can tell where this creature's located. Hurt, and near some fog. A ridge to its left. I suspect it is indeed north of us. I began, I believe, speaking of the story of Edward Carnby last time we had talked. It occurred to me that, however, I skipped several other instances of my childhood where witch hunting, or at the very least the encounters with the horrifying, happened. In spirit, if not in actuality. I remember a strange dream that I had where I wasn't quite myself. It was when I was very, very young. I had a different name in this dream. Johnny Dash, if I recall correctly. I remember wearing pajamas at the time, and my weapon wasn't guns, but a slingshot. I was not strong enough to wield a sword. Some creature had contacted me and wished for me to stop this evil vampire or werebat-like monster. It had captured various pets from the townsfolk of this area and was planning on using them, creating various undead or demons out of them. I would need to enter its realm and then free these creatures. At the same time, I would need to ensure that I kept myself alive, obviously, and find and defeat this most nefarious of enemies. It was a strange world when I entered the portal, however. I remember laughing skulls with eyes in them, snakes looking to bite me from every single tree trunk I came across, zombies and crawling claws, hands that would throw daggers at me whenever I would pass close. There was this strangeness to the land. Floating candies littered the entire landscape, if I recall correctly. And it didn't, although they didn't help me in any way, I felt the desire to still claim as many of these goodies as I possibly could acquire. To this day, I'm not sure why. I suppose it was for the novelty of it all. the points that they get would earn me amongst my peers, I suppose. We would find the various animals, cats and dogs, in cages littered throughout this area. There were moving platforms, witch broomsticks, if I recall correctly. I seem to remember a dragon in this area as well. Very, very strange. I don't remember too much more about it, however. My dream ended before my journey even began. Chests. Just like this area, there were chests in that world as well, with nothing really in them except for points. No gold, no treasure, and there was no equipment I could take with me. Not that I could carry anything in my pajamas pockets anyway, beyond just the stones that I had brought with me for my slingshot. I think that one of the stones must have been magical, for I don't remember ever running out of ammunition. Not recognize where it's located, but it is obviously not up here after all. Since we heard the heartbeat down here in some direction, let's keep going this way. Back to my strange dream, I don't remember too much more about that world that I had explored as a child. It was a real, I believe, monster bash of a time, however. There was another instance as well when I was a little older that I recall correctly. It involved these green, mean-spirited, goblin-like creatures called gremlins, if I remember. These creatures had infested various homes. Houses in particular, a particular house, and every evening I would find myself in this structure, with the task of eliminating every single gremlin that was within it, or saving these other strange furry bipedal creatures called mogwais or something similar to that effect. I had to keep them out of water, and I had to stop them from eating anything, or they would turn into one of these gremlins. I was armed with a backpack to carry a single one of these mogwais in it, and I could bring them to this small cage-like structure to keep them safe, where sunlight could not reach them. For every dawn, if sunlight touched them, or the gremlins, it would kill all of them. Technically, I suppose, I could probably just have left them there. I could have allowed the gremlins to simply exist and waited until dawn, but that would take way too long. I was armed with a sword for dealing with the gremlins at that time, and it was where I first got my swordplay practice in. No ranged weaponry, however, just a sword. They had made ranged weapons illegal at that time. Very frustrating. You can't... It is very difficult to kill a werewolf with a sword. In any case, I'm getting way ahead of myself, or behind myself as in this case. As here, our sword did not have a great range. Getting too close to a gremlin and it would tear you to shreds immediately. Just like this realm, however, although there weren't any stones to save you, the house itself would bring you back, and you would remember what you had done earlier, as the gremlins you might have encountered and killed earlier were now gone. Just as with my strange dream, I remember doing this for the prestige, the points to share with my peers. It seemed like the days would go on forever as well. I will have to try to bring up such a memory for you, Vi, so you can see what it was I had seen at the time. We have regressed since those days, however, of my youth. Much of the technology has been lost since that time. Or perhaps it is some collision of memories, the colliding of things that you have been telling me about compared to what exists in this world that is so confusing to me. But I seem to remember these things called refrigerators. Food is stored in them. They're like the ice boxes around here in this day and age. Only they use some other technology to keep themselves powered. The gremlins would open these refrigerators and take the food that had been stored inside and throw it about. Any mogwais that would eat it would then turn into gremlins. There was this strange device that would heat corn and, obviously, turn it into popcorn, which we do here as well. I remember this device being placed out in the middle of what I suppose would be the room's foyer or living room, just on the ground in the center of it, an awkward place to place such a device. Once turned on, it would endlessly produce popcorn, as if by magic, because there was surely not hundreds upon hundreds of kernels placed in it beforehand. You would have to run to it to turn it off, or risk flooding the entire house filled with popcorn. But it was also worth points, and I remember really desiring to pick up every single individual kernel for those points. There were these magical boxes as well that I recall. And when on, this glow would emit from them. You could see pictures of people moving and talking at the time. This would distract and dumbfound anything that was looking at it, except for us. You know by now that I do not trust such technology. It would probably be used for propaganda, and it definitely worked, however, on the gremlins. Anyone who watched this was stupefied by the sheer idiocy that transpired on this device. And Lucifer has returned to us, everyone. A great name for our goat friend. I have learned about our goat friend a bit as well. If we hit Lucifer, it will run to the creature that we are hunting. Perhaps this could be seen as cheating, but it will take us a long time to hunt this werewolf without its assistance. Having to rely on your vision, Vi, is very useful, but I am not familiar with the layout of this land. When I had finally been old enough to enter into university, the adventures I was having became more complex. More things were able to be experienced at that time. Technology was slowly becoming a bit better. At least the ability to craft stories and help people tell these stories was improving dramatically at the time. One of my favorite adventures back then was not one that I had partaken in. It actually was, viewer, but I'm going to try to describe this as a different play. Someone else telling me this. A friend of mine named Galvin had been an adventurer like us as well. He used magic, which is not something I can really approve of. And he was a hero, I believe is what he called himself. His adventures had taken him across various landscapes and to different towns and areas of the world that he had obviously adventured in. One such area was this town called Mordavia. It's on a ridge, Vi. I do not think it is up this ridge, though. But we will check up here again, and then we will move north. He found himself teleported to this strange dark cave at the beginning of this adventure, having just finished a prior one. There were odd altars therein, and swarms of flying spiders of all monstrosities to encounter. He fought his way out and arrived at a very suspicious of him town. Although he was quite famous in different areas of the land, he was not known here, and he had to build up his trust amongst the people in this town. He had saved the town's gravedigger from being trapped under a tombstone, and he helped save a gypsy from being falsely accused of murder of that gravedigger. He discovered a temple to an evil god within that town, a cult, and apparently the townsfolk were too afraid of them to have stopped that monastery from being constructed. This was created to worship this ancient evil. Actually, I don't know if evil is the proper term to describe it, but an ancient god of immense power. And you could probably view it, Vi, as a powerful demon, which the cultists wished to bring into this world. They had failed in that task. The memory of the story is a bit hazy or fuzzy for me at this moment. But the cultists had tried to summon it and were twisted into these horrific monsters, tentacles covering themselves, if I recall correctly. They lost all semblance of humanity as well when this occurred. They were almost successful in bringing the creature into that world as well, which would have been a disaster for the world as we know it. A different group of heroes, however, had stopped these cultists an age ago, but the creature still had an influence over the area. The cave that the creature that our hero friend Galvin had been teleported into was actually the body of that creature. He mentioned that combat there was quite unlike other combat he had experienced prior. It wasn't just because there were different creatures there as well, though that seemed to be the theme amongst the various areas he had adventured in. He felt like the combat was much more two-dimensional than it had been in the past. And it was much more important to jump in combat against the creatures as well. Very odd to be jumping around in combat. Some strangeness about the spell casting as well. It can take some time to cast certain spells, and you need a certain amount of distance from the enemies to cast them, or that had been the case in the past. But here, he mentioned something about rapidly trying to cast a spell and failing, but doing this on purpose in order to greatly improve his capabilities with spells, his knowledge of how they would work. It doesn't make much sense to me, Vi, what he's talking about, unfortunately. You explained it as rapidly pressing a button as quickly as you could. And that also it would not consume any mana, which I find to be impossible to believe, but there you have it. Let's save at this stone. We've spent 30 minutes or so, Vi, hunting for this creature, and we have not even seen it yet. And unfortunately for us, Vi, I have no clue where it could be at this point. I thought it would be up in this area, but I am totally wrong. If we see Lucifer, we will strike that creature again and rechase it. Galvin talked about a very dark theme throughout this adventure. A very tragic tale. The antagonist that he had been set to fight against was a dark master of the Mordavian Valley, a vampire, and a powerful one at that. She had taken a liking to the hero, though, finding him interesting upon first finding him, and what worked for Galvin, she found him cute as well. She had planned to turn him into a servant, but decided to instead try to have him help her willingly by tricking him and not giving him all the details of what it was she wanted him to do. She could not bring herself to force him into danger, which is strange for a vampire. In any case, her tale is sad, but we can cover that a different day. She ended up falling in love with the hero, and at the end of the story, sacrificed herself to save his life. There was another force present, however, and this is perhaps the reason why she had ended up falling prey to something in the end, because she was rather powerful and could not easily have been defeated. One of Galvin's prior foes, a mage named Ad Advis, was within this realm as well, from distant lands. He too was a vampire, and was enslaved to the Master. He was familiar with the various tricks and laws that go into vampire masters and their servants, for he could not directly go against his master's wishes. Our foe is walking south. He's on the other side, I believe, of this valley. For example, he realized that if the hero killed the Master, then he would be free of any obligations to her prior wishes, and could harm the hero, for Katarina had forbid him from directly doing so. He tried several tricks. After everything I saw in those woods, it became clear that this monster was created by a powerful witch that is settled in these woods. I did some research, and I think I know how to find and kill her.
I've gathered some ammo for you. Don't forget to pick it up from the table.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, Vi, I didn't finish my stories, but I feel like this would be a good time for us to part ways at this point. Let's explore the town a bit first, before we part ways, however, and see if there's anything new to find in these locations. I don't remember if we fully searched this house before. Let's check this again. We did, apparently, take the bright stone. Is that what it was called? From this location earlier. We did search this house. Remember a golden vase here before, however, or this plate. Whoever used to live here is obviously not coming back, not until at least we rid the woods of this witch. We still cannot enter that room. would seem there is something important in there. If we can find the key to that door, we should keep an eye out for it. Maybe it is within the shed. If it is, I do not see it. Is it perhaps hidden around the back? If it is too well hidden for me to find. Let us see the good doctor before we continue with the rest of this, as you like to call them, Vi, episodes. Our sleeping friend is no longer here. We came very close to dying several times there, Vi. Thank you for your assistance. It was very close indeed. I thought for sure when that pack of wolves or hellhounds had attacked us, that would be the end of us. Before we pick anything else up, we should visit the merchant. Three free silver crucifixes. Well, Vi, we have exactly the coins to purchase the bounty hunter license. I was avoiding taking this earlier, as I was hoping we would not have to stay here in this town for very long. But it looks like, unfortunately, for the residents of Belleville, they are plagued by something more powerful than just a single werewolf. Since most of the town has left, and since it seems like the mayor is generous with the funds, let us purchase this bounty hunter's license. We will earn 10 coins for every creature that we kill, roughly, from this point onward. Interesting. The barn is shut to us now, and it's not even locked, but I don't feel the urge to even explore it even slightly. I see they took down the body hanging outside as well. I suppose while that is a hanging corpse is good to warn others that the town takes their punishments seriously and will enforce their laws, it might not be good for the morale of the town to have such a stinking corpse around for very long. Alright, Vi. I cannot find anything else nor any trace of a key that could be used to get us into that one room. So I think we will stop here. And when we return, we will head out into the woods and see if we can track down something different. We won't be able to find the witch so easily. We will have to get her to show herself first, and that means weakening her powers. To that end, we will need to hunt another of its servants. If there is a witch here, then it will have a special tree in order to increase its powers and allow it to create these other creatures. We will try to hunt down and destroy that tree, but we will begin doing so in the next episode. So Vi, I look forward to you being with me again then.